Congress UK member, Mr. John WARMISHAM. Welcome to our Mediabox platform. Your report on the situation of Roma and Travellers in the context of rising racism and xenophobia and the refugee crisis in Europe today is discussed in the plenary session. I would like to first ask you the main objective of the report.
I think we did a report in 2011 and we did a report to the last one on Roma youth. And I just thought with the way that things are changing in Europe, you know, you're seeing the rise of the right wing, lots of xenophobia, lots of racism. And I just thought we had to highlight it, look at what was happening across Europe with local and regional authorities, see if there was any good practice out there, and you know, what were local authorities doing. And sad to say, it's just really sickening what's happening when you see some of the examples of the way that Roma are still being persecuted.
And your report also highlights the effects of the refugee crisis on Roma women and youth. So can you briefly explain what you found in this regard? Yeah,
I think because sort of the refugee is high on the political ladder, you know, Roma's being excluded. I think particularly when it comes to women and children, Roma women and children, is certainly when you look at education, you know, Roma aren't getting into education. When women give birth, they're sometimes not being able to register the child, so the child has no papers. So through their life, they're a non-person. You know, they can't access education, they can't access healthcare. It's difficult to get any sort of benefits, or they're just non-people. And that's so wrong, and it's been exasperated because of the refugee crisis. Because as I've said, you know, the refugee crisis is awful, but it's really sort of knocked Roma right down, so people just aren't bothering about them. So there's a lot of destitution and suffering.
Besides that, in your speech today in the hemicycle, you also called the politicians and the members of the Congress for fighting against antigypsies, which is also an important issue. So what would you like to say about that? How do you really think that your message will be received? And what should I have done also for fighting against antigypsies?
Yeah, I think politicians are community leaders, whether it's at local, regional, MPs, MEPs, presidents, prime ministers, their language, they're leaders. So if they're using derogatory language about Roma, people are going to follow that, you know. So it's for them to set a good example and actually not use hate speech, you know. Just because it might win them a few votes, you know, it's more important that we're looking at people's human rights, you know. Roma have been persecuted for hundreds of years, and it's not gone away. You know, you've only got to look the last few years. It's only just been recognised how many Roma died in the Holocaust, and it's those sort of things that we've got to keep to the forefront, and we've got to keep fighting hate speech and hate crimes. And politicians have a lot to answer for and a lot to do.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Rapporteur.
Yeah, pleasure.